Okay, so again, my name is Jennifer. I'm one of the instructional designers, and I've been on working with this pilot since pretty much it started. Blackboard Ally is a product that is not so much brand new. It's been around for a little while with a couple other campuses. So if you're working on a different campus, you may have already heard it or used it on Canvas maybe. Um, this is new to our campus. We are in pilot mode right now for it. So we're having instructors use it for their courses. And basically it's to assist with making your content. So your course content, all the stuff that goes in here. So your PowerPoints, your Word documents, all those kinds of things more accessible for students. And it's going to allow us to build a more inclusive environment for all of our students who utilize the tool. So here are some of the features. One of the main things of why we're using this tool is because it follows the guidelines of WCAG or WCAG, which is the leader in the guidelines for how to make online content accessible. And so it's following all those guidelines. These are also global guidelines as well. So this is also intended for a global audience as well. And it provides us scores. So it does give a scoring range, but don't be taking that as kind of a negative or anything like that. It's more of a way to guide you on seeing what your content is looking like as far as accessible. Is it accessible or does it need more work? So the guidelines and how it gives a scoring is it uses a percentage. So if you see this little icon here, let me get my little pointer 1 second. So this guy here, this is the scoring range that you'll see. So you'll see either low based off of the percentage of how low it may score, or even perfect or high. So it'll give you a range of where that particular document, so it'll go over each document itself, will get a percentage range of how it's scored. Anything that is PDF, a Word document, an image, anything like that will be given a score. And then again, this is a little bit more on what the score does. So once you're in here, it'll give you the score here again, in addition to a section that's kind of like the wizard of steps on how you can potentially make it better, what the issues are, and things like that. It can give you some more information on guidelines of what to do, but it's not quite at 100% on how to do that yet. So if you're not familiar with it yet, I would hold off on that. But you're welcome to explore it if you decide to turn it on to be a part of the pilot right now to utilize Blackboard Ally in your course. Okay. So this is the instructor feedback that we mentioned. And these are the steps that it can show you on how to update it. And what's also nice is that it provides you the updated document. Should you make any changes right then and there by following the step-by-step guidance, it'll actually do the updated document there. So you won't have to like do a download and re-upload and that kind of thing. It'll already be in the course for you. What's also neat about this one, and this is where students will be able to access this information, where the alternative formats, which is basically is going to take your content and allow you to allow the student to download it as either an HTML page, if it's a Word or PDF document, or it can convert it into an EPUB. So ePublisher would be something like a Kindle or something of that kind of application, like on an iPad. It can be like a Nook reader, things like that, so that a student can read it on the go instead of having to have their laptop with them everywhere. Electronic Braille, if you're not familiar with that, people who are low sight or who have no sight can use the electronic Braille to basically have Braille digitally available to them on a keyboard, which is kind of a neat tool, but it's not anything you would have to worry about. This is a way for them to have it converted for them on their particular device and then get the information that way instead of having to wait for printed Braille. So it's a little bit more on demand, so to speak, instead of waiting for printed documents. And then audio would be converting the text document into an audio. And then the B reader is something that allows the students to see it, to read it like maybe a long document or text, and it follows along. So it has a highlighter that goes along with them to follow, so it can keeps their attention on the document. The next thing is the accessibility report. So along with the document giving you a percentage, it also will generate a full report if you want to take a look at it. And this is what it looks like. And it gives you a scoring of how many have the easiest issues and the ones with the lowest scoring, so the one with the most issues. So it gives you a place to start, so to speak, if you want to start with the ones that are going to be the most issue, and then work your way from there. And this is, again, a document that only you will have access to. You don't have to worry about this going to the students or to anyone else. This is strictly for your course and for you to view as the instructor. So again, this is how you can view them. These are looking at all the low scoring documents. You can tell they're all in the red, and it tells you how many issues are there. And you can click on these particular links to these documents to go to them as well. So it provides a way of kind of structuring them so you can go directly to those sections by category, or you can look at them all at once. Now, what are some of the limitations of the tool? The tool won't automatically make a document accessible for you. And it doesn't have any live captioning like it does in like Zoom can do. So it won't be able to do any of that. And you'll still need to use Kaltura if you're planning to upload any videos to use the captioning in there, which is why there's no automated captioning. And then for publisher content, it's a little bit different as well. So if you have mostly publisher content and not your own documents that you pulled from other sources or documents that you've created, you'll want to work with us as well, or probably more so the Accessible Instructional Materials Center, which is known as the AIM Center, to work with you on ensuring that your publisher content is in fact accessible if you need it, especially for accommodating a student who definitely needs it. And then spell check is also not available. So that's something you'll want to use. It's either the tool within Blackboard or use a separate tool like Word document or something like that. So right now, the workflow in order to access Blackboard LA is you will need to email us. You can email us at ATS Instructional Design. Excuse me. My colleague will go ahead and post that in the chat for you. Or you can email Blackboard. And then once that's done and turned on, you will want to upload the document onto, we'll turn that on into your course. You'll also want to actually turn it on. There's a button that we'll need to add onto your navigation bar. And then you can start uploading your documents if you haven't already uploaded anything yet. If you have documents that are already in your course and are then turning it on, it will take a few minutes for it to generate. So you won't see it automatically once you add it to your navigation bar. It'll take a few minutes to generate everything, depending on how many documents you have and how big they are. So this is that step. So it'll run Ally once you've added it, and then you can start identifying your documents from there. Any questions about that? No? Okay. Feel free to use the chat if you have any. So then why use this, right? If it's not going to make it accessible for you. Well, right now we're using it as a way to see where we stand as a campus and to also provide inclusiveness, and because it's also part of mandated by law. giving you some information about how to minimize the risks that we may encounter. In addition, 1 second, sorry. Sorry about that, I have a dog. Okay, so just also let you know, giving you more awareness of where your course content stands, and also to get into the mindset of building accessibility into your courses from the start when you're building your courses rather than after the fact. It's always easier to build it within it rather than it is after the fact. And then this is also to minimize some of the student challenges. One story I like to share is I've had an instructor tell me about a student that they had who at one point had to drop the course because the content wasn't getting accessible fast enough for them in order to meet the needs of their learning. So because of that, that is something that we're running into. It's an issue with graduation, right? So we want to focus on making sure that we're assisting our students and getting them the information that they need right away. In addition to that, students may not even know they have a disability, whether it be a learning disability, or maybe they just don't want to share that yet with the faculty. And keep in mind, they don't have to disclose. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But if we're already doing that at the get-go, we are allowing our students to have access without needing to feel the sense of sharing it with everybody that they need to. And then it also provides us an understanding as an institution of where we stand as far as accessibility and ensuring that we're meeting those needs for all of our students. And I'll let you guys look at the rest of this, as I know it's a lot of text. So we'll be willing to share these if you guys need it. Okay, and let me see. Marissa, are you still in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you mind going over the pilot? Would you be able to take over real quick? I have an emergency real quick.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we do currently, we did a pilot program. So go ahead and turn my video. Our pilot program consisted of actually hiring student assistants who were initially hired for the Horn Center. We actually brought them to, because of COVID, our Horn Center is closed, right? So we brought them to train them on how to remediate documents, so instructional materials. So it was definitely a new learning skill for them, as well as working with faculty who have currently turned on Blackboard Ally. So we had about eight instructors who were interested in turning on Blackboard Ally as a pilot program. And then we had those student assistants to remediate those instructional materials. So as you could imagine, within the 8 courses, we had about 4,000 documents that were identified of needing to have through remediation. So it was very time consuming, right? It did take about a semester to go ahead and remediate those instructional materials. The good part about that is that now that because of the pilot program, we show that there is a need and there is a demand to help faculty, because we know that this is a huge responsibility for faculty in addition to just more work. And this is also mandated by law, but we also want to go ahead and find a happy medium, right, to help faculty and to meet the needs of students, especially, as well as providing the service for the campus. So that being said, we are working now on making it into a program to have a strategic plan behind it, where the student assistants will be able to help remediate instructional materials. So what that's in the works right now, but the pilot was very successful. Our ATI, which is the Accessible Technology Initiative, we've been working very closely with them, as well as BMAC and the AIM Center for this pilot to now become a program, which is hopefully probably like fall or spring semester. So yeah, it was very successful.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I had a dog that needed to go outside. No Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, as Marissa mentioned, we have the pilot, and then Right now, everyone does have access, the ability to turn on Blackboard Ally. The remediation is not an option right now. I see that there's a question about long math formulas. That is a good question. I don't think it has that just yet. Marissa, do you know off the top of your head?
So currently with Blackboard Ally, it does not. So again, remember Blackboard Ally will not remediate, so they won't fix the documents for the instructional materials. That's why we had the pilot program. So that's, STEM, art courses, math obviously is part of STEM, is a big concern, right? So we are looking into other programs that are free. I can't remember the name of it right now. Equatio is one of them, is where for faculty could go ahead and put in the LaTeX language, right? And it will spit out basically information that assistive technology will read for students. So there are definitely workarounds for science courses. Within Beachboard itself, this is outside of Blackboard Ally, there is the LaTeX function that you could use with when you create I think the option is create a file, right? Which is like the mimicking of creating a web page. Within that, if you look into like the control panels, there is something that's for LaTeX for math. But yeah, so there is a workaround, but in regards to Blackboard Ally and for math functions, right now there currently is not a way to remediate those math formulas.
Yeah, I presently use LaTeX to produce a document. So I know the LaTeX things.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so but definitely workarounds for sure. And that's the same situation that the AIM Center, they have workarounds also because math, right? LaTeX, certain languages are very complex because, for example, it would read it not correctly, right? So it's an injustice to students. So, but definitely we have workarounds in using other software.
Yeah, so in those cases, we would recommend working with our Accessible Instructional Materials Center in those particular cases. That way you have the best resources available for those workarounds. And then let's see. So again, if you are interested in being part of the pilot or turning on Blackboard Ally for your course and seeing where you stand on the scoring range and allowing your students to have access to those alternative modes of instruction, alternative modes of seeing your content, I should say, feel free to contact us. Listed here is the information we would need in order to turn it on for you. So we will need the course info, which is the prefix, the course title, and the schedule number, and ideally the link to the course, which is that web address that's associated up on the top. So that will help us in accessing the correct course. If you want to do it for more than one course, you definitely can. We would need to know each course information. Unfortunately, because it's not turned on globally yet, we have to do it one course at a time. So if you want it for more than one course, we'll need you to list the courses that you want there. And then let's go ahead. So beyond that, as well, things that you can do is definitely talking amongst yourselves with your colleagues, connecting with the Accessible Technology Initiative, who's also in charge of a lot of the changes and updates that we've been making to make sure our campus is accessible. My lead, Marissa, is also on that board and committee. Looking at alternative websites, making sure that your content that you get from other publishers is also accessible. So making sure you're asking them and having them do their due diligence and making sure that their content is accessible. So that means any pictures or PowerPoints that they have, those have tags available on them, making sure that the videos that they provide are also closed captioned and also have a transcript. Ideally, we'd want both. That's best practice to have both closed caption and transcripts, but one or the other will suffice. And then sharing your experience as well with other colleagues and staff so that they can see what this tool can do. And also it allows us to see where it works and where it doesn't, and how we can also make it a better tool by working with the vendor. And then here we have some additional resources for you, which is some information about where Blackboard Ally is. if you're interested in getting started on it. And then for students as well, what they can use and access. And then also, I talked a lot about different resources like the Accessible Instructional Materials Center. Their website is here. The Accessible Technology Initiative, which is, they also have a newsletter. So they meet, I think, on a monthly basis. Is that correct, Marissa?
Yes, monthly.
So they meet on a monthly basis. So if you, excuse me, sign up and connect with the website, you'll be able to find out any new things that are going on. And then, of course, most of you are probably already familiar with the BMAC Center for Student Disabled Services. And then our ITS for any accessible training as well that they have. And I believe that's next is our Blackboard Ally demonstration. So I'm going to show you what it looks like inside Beachboard itself. Are there any questions in the meantime while I transition? So bear with me just a few minutes. Okay, so now you should be seeing my Blackboard course, or my Beachboard course, I should say, with Blackboard Ally. Sorry, I'm interchanging them and I shouldn't be. It's Beachboard. We have D2L, just to let you all know, we don't have Blackboard. So when you turn this tool on, initially it won't be available, or when you get it initially, you'll need to go here over to edit course. Oops, sorry, not edit course, to the navigation bar here, edit this nav bar. And you'll need to add links. And you'll want to add accessibility report. Now I've already added it onto my navigation bar, so it's already turned on for my course at this particular point in time. I wanted to show you that, and when you initially get it turned on, once we tell you, we'll also provide you instructions again. You don't have to memorize this right now, but we'll provide you the instructions again on how to add it to your navigation bar. But just know there'll be one more step that you'll need to do in order to access it. So once it's there, you'll need to let it run for a few minutes and see that there are some documents here. And turn these on. So this is our document here. And this is one that is already completely green. So it's already got a perfect score. So this is what it would look like. This has been made accessible. And then here are the alternative formats that you can give to students. Know that you can disable them if for any reason you don't want a document to be converted. Maybe it has some restrictions that you can share it within the course, but you're not able to share it amongst the students to convert it to different modes for whatever reason. You can disable it, but know that you would be disabling every option. So just know that. And you can do it for individual topics or individual documents. So it's not for every single one. And this is one that needs some accessibility. Actually, no, I guess not. Sorry about that. This one did not. This one already has it. So let me show you what it looks like when we upload a new document. Did I need to choose? I'll do. No, we don't. Jody, are you asking, like, do we as the instructors need to choose it for the student? Just to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, when you said the pull down menu and it gave all the choices, do I have to pick which ones they get, or they'll have those choices and they can pick what's convenient for them?
They'll have the option and they can decide for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then just a side note to add on that, when a student does do the initial download, so once the course opens up and, one student does one EPUB, it'll initially might take a few minutes for it, depending on how long the document is. And then after that, it usually moves a little bit faster for every other download it happens. And let me go ahead and show you what this looks like when we're adding a new document in here. So I'm going to browse here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and upload. I'll do this one. So, and this is an example of just to show you when you upload a document, it can take a little bit of time to process. So if you need to just take a quick break and just let it go. And depending on how long that document is, it might take a few minutes, but it will eventually show up in the area up here. So as you can tell, it's not showing right away, but eventually it will pop up once it's gone through the process. So if I go ahead and refresh, let's see, nope, still in progress. So it might take a few minutes, but know that it will pop up and be available there. And then for any documents that maybe have an image, say you're uploading an image into an HTML file. So this is an HTML file. So what that means is I created this document and it's one that I can add in here. These documents, you will want to use the accessibility checker to verify its accessibility. So this is a document I can actually edit in here by adding a page and adding additional text like here. And then this is the accessibility checker here, this icon with the eye and the check. And as of now, there's no issues. So this actually is inside Beachboard itself. It's not associated with Blackboard Ally, but I did want to just make sure that you guys know what that is and can see it and to use it when you decide to use an HTML page and add any images. When you add images, you'll get a prompt that tells you to add in add in an alt tag. And what that means is you're giving a description. So if you see here, there's a, right where my icon is, or where my mouse is hovered, it says man with headset focused on working. That was a description I gave for this particular image. So you'll want to make sure you're adding a description of the images that you add up here and not just use the, for like if it's for a design or something like that, you want to give an actual description. Don't use the default there. So that's what it looks like inside Beachboard. Let me see. This is a Word document with the table. So we had to change the table headers on this one. So it gives you an idea of what that looks like as well. Okay. Any more questions? No? Okay. So I think that's it as far as the presentation at this particular point in time. So, oh, Jody, did you have another question?
You said that this could be used for PowerPoints. What if they're voiced over PowerPoints? Would that still work too?
So in that case, it's a recorded voiceover, correct? And you, is what you're asking
Yeah,
for?
it's a point, and I've recorded my voice on each slide as I go through it with the students.
Yeah, so for voiceover PowerPoints, those are still considered a video. So those ones you'd want to make sure you're uploading them to Kaltura to have the closed captioning on them. So those ones, the only time you'd want to, where Blackboard Ally would come into play on that is if you decided to upload the PowerPoint slides themselves into the content section, and then it would review the PowerPoint and give you a scoring for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other question? And that was a really good question. Thank you for sharing, for asking. I think there was some question in the chat.
I wanted to mention something, Jennifer. Thanks for the presentation. I'm a faculty champion for our department in the College of Engineering. I noticed from one or two of the reviews for the quality matter, the checklist, I noticed that some of the faculties still don't know what we mean by accessibility. They say in response that, oh yes, our documents are accessible. They can go to content and click and they find it. They think that that means how they can reach to the document. Now, maybe in your presentation, maybe in the future, you may highlight the benefits. I mean, what is the accessibility? What's the definition? What are the consequences of not having documents being accessible? Who would be excluded from this, because the purpose is inclusiveness. So something like that as an introduction to the whole program would be useful for faculties. And then once they I guess, notice the benefit,
Mhm.
participate more, I would say. That's what I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great feedback. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely something I'll concur with my colleagues to see if we want to change up the way we flow this particular overview. That way it gives more of a upfront of why we're using this tool in the first place and then go into the tool instead. So thank you. Any other questions or feedback? Welcome to it. And if there isn't, you're more than welcome to go ahead and take to leave. I'll be here for a few more minutes if there are any other questions, but yeah, that concludes our presentation for this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is great.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add real quick, sorry, in regards to ATS's efforts to, bring in Blackboard Ally, because we are going to turn this on to the campus for fall semester, right? So you will be seeing this. We are working very hard in regards to communication with students so that they, again, from their perspective, they will see the alternative format icon so they could choose what alternative format they want, which is universal design for learning, right? But as an instructor, you will be the only ones that will see the percentage of what the scoring is, as well as the accessibility report. So our efforts are really not to cause more stress or panic for you or the students. This is very much an awareness tool and, to inspire faculty if they want to learn more about accessibility and how to remediate or, and then also to help provide that service. That really is what the goal is for ATS. So again, it's not to cause panic or to cause more stress for both students and for faculty, but it is an accessibility awareness tool that that is much needed, right? And what other campuses and the nation is now implementing. So yeah, so please keep that in mind. So, and if you have questions or need support, please contact ATS. And again, with the AIM Center, we work very closely with them. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for adding that, Marissa.
I just have one more question, if I can ask you. You said that only we can see if it's like the percentages. So like our department chair wouldn't be able to see like what it says.
Correct.
Okay. And then my other question is, do we see like if students are actually accessing it through alternative modes, or like, so if all this work, can we see that they're actually using it? Or, I mean, not that I need to know exactly who uses it, but do we get like a percentage, like, 3 of your students have used it, just so that it's like an extra step if I know if they're actually using it or not using it? That makes sense?
Yeah, so I could answer that, Jen. So actually, yes. So because accessibility and just data in general is very sensitive, we only, in ATS, we only have one person who has that key, right? So, but that being said, we're working on a strategic plan to provide departments with that information, because we definitely can retrieve that as to like how many students are utilizing alternative formats, what alternative formats are they utilizing. Same thing from the perspective of the faculty, our faculty, how many instructional materials are accessible, how many are non-accessible, how many have improved. So there's a lot of data that this software can retrieve, but it is very sensitive again, especially because it is accessibility. So as a department, we are working on how to provide that information to colleges and to instructors. Hope that helps.
Okay,
Jody.
perfect. Yeah, no, that helps, because I was just thinking, because I think some of mine may not be the best. So if I spend all that time altering it and then to not have anyone use it, that's, I'm not trying to say I'm being lazy, but I'm just saying, if I do all that work and then they don't use it or they don't bother with it at all, then I can kind of keep it as how I had it before.
Yeah. And the great thing about this program is that it automatically, like Jennifer had mentioned in her presentation, because if you work with someone like BMAC or AIM Center, it does take students a long time to get the alternative media, right? Because it's time consuming. This program does a great job of providing that alternative format for them. So that's what we're really pushing with our communication, is to, have students know what that icon is and then utilize that. And utilize whichever format. So if they're in a bus, if they're on the bus and they want to hear an audio of your lecture or an audio format of a document, perfect, right? So they could choose as many alternative formats as they want. And that's what's really groundbreaking about this software.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. This is all new. Does it all work for quizzes? Like if they needed their quiz read to them or something like that? Or is quizzes not an option that they can have it as an alternative format?
Not for quizzes, it's strictly just the content that's inside the content section. So that one, they would still need to work with BMAC if they needed that kind of accommodation at that point. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your answering all my questions and everything. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. If you have any more, or if you decide to go ahead and turn on the tool, you're more than welcome to ask more questions and work with an instructional designer to help you out with getting those questions answered and kind of going from there and working with what is going to be best for your course.